Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order, Board of Adjustments, regular session for the City of Mount Pleasant, September 13th, 2022. Item number 2 is approve the minutes from the April 12th, 2022 meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All approved. Item number 3 is considered a request by NTX Realty Group for the approval of a variance from the zoning code section 155.47, number 3AD, to allow head-in parking on property known as Mount Pleasant City Blocks, Block 55, Lot 2 through 5, 1.1365 acres, also known as 316th West 7th Street, Mount Pleasant, Texas, 75455, and take any action as necessary.
Good evening, board members. I'm John Ankrum, the building official here with the City of Mount Pleasant. So we were approached by Mr. John Dancer, who's actually here to represent NTX Realty this evening. He would like to build a 26 apartment unit complex in the old nursing home located on West 7th Street. And part of the requirements for a apartment complex is you have to have 2 parking spaces per unit. So in order to accomplish that goal, as you can see on the site plan as well as the lot itself, that's kind of a picture of the lot there. There's really, the red line represents the property line. There's really nowhere to add any additional parking. On the site plan you can see right here, they do have some parking they've created up here. They've done some parallel parking down through here, but they're also asking these highlighted areas to be allowed to be converted to head-in parking in order to meet the parking requirements. Once with the site plan that they submitted and the head-in parking, that will give them, I believe, 53 parking places. They're required to have 52, so it'll be one above. The head-in parking are 16 new head-in spots. They do currently have about 9 or 10 existing head-in parking places, which are along this side right here, along North Johnson Avenue. So this is just some additional head-in parking in order to make the parking requirements work. He's given you guys kind of a layout as well as a elevation of what the proposed apartments would look like. We did mail out 29 notices to the surrounding residents. We had 2 notices come back. One was in favor of the project and one was against the project. So the one that was in favor says it does not interfere with property. It will be good for the community, and the one against, they just put they were opposed. They didn't actually give any reason as to why they were opposed.
Where do they live at?
I apologize, I actually put a little letter with it. They live at 611 North Johnson Avenue. It says they're opposed to the request because these streets are not very wide and can barely fit the 2 cars going on opposite traffic. Parking spaces 8 and 9 are very close to the dip that gets flooded when it rains. I'm also opposed to the parallel spaces 10 through 16 proposed to be on North Johnson Avenue. It is already difficult to reverse out of the parking spaces because of how close the land is. Therefore, putting parking spaces in front of my home could possibly result in an accident. I'm assuming she's talking about the head-in spots for the parallel parking right here. So it's got to be one of these homes across the street over here. Well, over here, so this is, I believe, 7th Street. 7th Street is extremely narrow. 8th Street's a little bit wider, and North Johnson's, I believe, a typical, 2-lane type roadway. Probably somewhere. I don't know the exact measurement. It's definitely wider than 8th, 7th Street. But if the head-in parking wasn't there, then probably more people would park along the street. One thing we did do is get with the fire chief, and he said he would rather have the head-in parking to allow movement rather than to have on-street parking. Because if you put the head-ins over here, then people really can't park on the street because they'll be blocking in the head-in parking. The actual address of the, property is what, 37, or, what is it? Oh, 316? Yeah, 316th West 7th. But yeah, Johnson would be the 6 and 700 block of Johnson Street. Yeah, this would be the 6 and 7, well, 6 through 800 block, really. Any additional questions for me? They do, yeah. I mean, majority of these homes do have some sort of driveway. There's one, you can see a car parked there. So they do have driveways off Johnson Street, yes, sir.
So to make you aware, there is existing headed parking that's there. That, because of our parking, multifamily requires parking. There is, that's an existing system. What they're trying to create, they're trying to get these additional parking spaces around, are those there?
No.
Okay. So those additional, we're trying to get as close to the parking requirement as possible. And I think that more about what we can.
You're not really adding anything to Johnson Street, it's more,
Well,
Actually,
Six.
parallel
parallel right here.
we're getting this picture here, we're
Oh,
creating that parallel. He's creating a parallel system here, so it kind of keeps traffic, directly off the street. Yeah, that's already happening here, but this actually keeps them not parking adjacent. And then there was parking created back by realigning this back here in the street.
And I believe where the parallel parking is, there's actually a couple head-in spots, but we didn't want to utilize the existing head-ins because we thought the vehicles would be sticking out onto Johnson, so he converted them all to parallel.
okay. Has anybody got any questions? Yeah, well, a public hearing. Anybody got any statements or questions or answers they want to give us?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Danster. I'm a developer. My address is 206 North Oak Street, Roanoke, Texas. My associates are from Arlington, Texas, and their address is on the application. We found this building. It's been vacant for some time. We saw a lot of potential in the structure and the location and small town where things are growing. We've worked with the staff, city planner, fire marshal for several months now, going back and forth. Their planner has done a great job designing the rooms and trying to adhere to the parking requirements. Like I said, they've pretty much done my job for me. I think the existing head-in parking is, in my opinion, no different than pulling into a driveway across the street. The additional head-in parking that we're asking for, once again, is getting people off of the street. And it allows us to not have to have some kind of variance for parking requirements, but also gets people off the street and where they can pull in near their door and walk into their apartment and do whatever it is we do inside these days. We don't feel like we've done anything but improve, and we do want to take what's been a vacated eyesore into a usable, viable property that is zoned apartments. So We respectfully request that you allow us to continue to work with your staff and build something that we'll be proud of and that'll generate more tax revenue and income. Appreciate it. If you've got any questions, we're here.
Anybody have any questions?
These are all one bedroom.
Just nice little affordable units. I don't know if it matters, but we also already have a roofing permit and a cleanup permit, so they're already planning on getting that started. Get it dried in, because there are some places that aren't even dried in on the property, on the roof.
I mean, it'll be an asset to me. Anybody got else was? Thank you. Nobody has any questions? Okay, if nobody has any statements, we'll close the public hearing and go to, do I hear a motion to approve the variance?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're passed. Yes, sir. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. You ready? Ready to get this party started? Robert, I understand you're leaving it.
There's an age restriction on working here?
No.
Did you know that?
Is there?
Yeah. You can only be so old and you have to leave, so, anyway. You have officially Gonzalez, David's here, he's the person that's been hired, basically, and I'm gonna stick around for a while, kind of getting acclimatized to the Mount Pleasant area and all the stuff that we're doing, and I'll be a little bit in the background, kind of working, with the city manager for a while still on different projects that we got going, so I'm not totally out of here, but David's gonna really take over more of the functional duties of this, planning, zoning, and applications that come in that sort of, so I'll be sort of as the background directing guy, sort of a little bit, for a bit, so, anyway.
So you'll be around a while? Okay, okay. Well, good. All right. We'll call this order to the Planning and Zoning Commission, regular session, City of Mount Pleasant, September 13th, 2022. Here, consider approval of the minutes for the August 9th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and take any action as necessary. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes for the August the 9th, 2022?
I accept.
I hear a second.
I'll second the approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 3 is hold a public hearing, consider the approval of a city-initiated amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 154, subdivision, adding a new section 154.83, standards for design and development within subdivisions, adopting the City of Mount Pleasant Engineering Standards and Design Manual, and take any action as necessary.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a project we've been working on for several months. The city's really never had a set standard design manual, and as much development as we've started getting, we get questioned about that all the time. We have worked with typical details and that we've had the engineer give us, but most cities have a manual that you can go to functionally and tell you how to, the specifics of engineering on road design, water and sewer, storm water management, how you have to do that. And it's basically, it's kind of it's an engineering textbook in a sense, you know. And but it directs people, it directs other engineers to understand, you know, what standards are we using in the city and what standards do they need to go by. And usually most cities have that available, or they rely on either what they call a council of governments in the Metroplex, the North Texas Council of Governments every year has a standard set of standards that they update. A lot of cities will use those and update their standards to that. So those things are a changing process and they go on. And what we're doing with this part of the code is to make it available to whoever is a designated city engineer can functionally, during the years, adopt or change some of the standards with new technology and wherever else is coming along. If we need to change something, then we'll be able to change it. And also there's some flexibility in this code that we're setting that they can look at things that if a contractor comes in and wants to talk about some variant to that design, he has the ability to consider that based on what we've got, but he does have the capacity to consider that, and we've sort of put that in there to make that work. Along with this, even though I didn't bring it to you tonight, this is a design manual. The first part of the code is just the section in the code that talks about the fact that we do have a design manual and we have to put it in the subdivision ordinance and say that we can amend it from time to time. The second part is just adopting this Exhibit A, which is the actual criteria, which you've got a copy of. And along with that, I didn't bring well, we have a set of standard details that we have already got and we've been functioning with, and it's part of this, but you don't really need to see those necessarily, they're just more technical. But there are things in here that are going to set some new precedent for the city, mainly just the fact that we do have roads criteria for how you're going to build a road. We will ask specifically on construction materials and how they get built. They've got to meet a certain standard. I think another thing that's going to be new in here, that in new subdivisions only, and basically even potentially commercial areas that we can, but especially in residential subdivisions, that standalone subdivisions that come in, the new ones, there's going to be a requirement for sidewalk, and that will have to be put in within that subdivision. So we're going to try to start building that back to the point where people do have walking space within these new subdivisions that'll be coming into you. So that was one of the things we put in place in this. And a few other things, the requirement for actual, if fire lanes are dedicated, they need, as fire lanes, they need to be dedicated fire lanes, so we have those in commercial properties. For instance, apartment complexes, we're getting some of those coming in now. We want those as dedicated fire lanes. There's no question about it, and when we dedicate them and put them on a plat and get them dedicated, we have the power to police them. We can go out and police those things a little bit more efficiently. If we had to write a ticket for somebody blocking a fire lane, that would stand up in court because we did have it actually basically a filed plat that shows that fire lane is a fire lane. So it's not trying to penalize anybody, but we just need those standards in place as these newer developments, especially these things dealing with commercial development, and also I think these higher density residential developments. We need to get those kind of things in place, and this kind of This will make it life easier for everybody intended, because people can look at these standards, these developers that are coming in from out of town wanting to develop here, they're familiar with doing this, so it's a lot easier for them to have a set of standards to go by, and there's not as many questions asked, and they understand how to get, and it speeds up the development process for them also. So with that, what we need to do tonight is just hold a public hearing. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I know there was a lot of information in here that you probably, if you even had time to gloss over, that's fine, but that really, it's just to let you know that this is what it is and you have a copy of it, and if there's anything specific. And even in the future, if you've got anything specific in it you want to talk about, we'd be glad to do that. So, if you have any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer. It is a public hearing.
Residential part of it, I was reading, so all residential, not only do we have to have landscape in the front, which is standard now, but we also have irrigation, is that correct, or can they still use hoses, or does every resident, you know what I'm saying? Do they have to put in a sprinkler system now?
And you have to be able to provide some type of water, yeah. That's what we're saying. We're saying that there has to be some irrigation. Now, we get into the commercial aspect of it when we have a site plan. We're probably gonna say, yeah, you gotta have a irrigation system that we see, because that's part of your site plan approval process. Residential, no, not this, not what you're thinking.
Okay, I'm gonna open this to a public hearing. Is that what we need to do?
I just have one question, and that is, I did not read completely through this, but I'm assuming that everything here is consistent with Texas Engineering Society standards.
Yeah, that's what they were using, and they were also, some of this is based on some of the surrounding cities that we pulled some of the design standards for, we kind of compared notes with. But yeah, it's done by, yes, it's a professional engineer that put these together, yeah. We had our consultant, KSA, is the one who actually put this together. We reviewed it, but we've been working it collectively as a staff with our engineer for about 6 months.
Okay. I guess we close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to accept the new standard here?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Here a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All passed. Now we go to the planning director's report.
Pretty much heard my report. I was going to introduce David to you, and so that's really pretty much what's going on. We maybe just a heads up on the project on the north end. We did get we got the our water line bid back, and so we'll probably be going to work on that, awarding that bid within hopefully the next 2 weeks, and start that north project with the water line at least. So. Like I said before, we have some construction already up there on the north end. This will be the beginning of that once we get the water line up there and start. Hopefully, it'll kick in some more development going. We're still out a ways on sewer, but I think this at least this gets that going, and that our sewer design engineers working on the sewer design as we speak. So we should be at least get into the design stage. And I don't know, maybe after probably a couple, 3 more months before we actually put it out to bid, but, or get to the design point where we can put it out to bid. So, but we're working on it, so it's moving forward.
Well, didn't that have sewer out there? Were you talking about out there at Deer Park?
Yeah,
Talking
Deer
about
Park,
running-
yeah. We've got 5 houses that are pretty much built right there.
But I know sewer was run out there years ago, back.
They looked at it, went back and they cambered those lines, and they weren't usable. Some of it, they might be able to use existing manholes that are there, but the lines themselves, they weren't going to make it. And the real reason for this is because it was more it wasn't just Deer Park, it was all that other Luminant property, and then when they started selling off those 25 acres, 30 acres at a time, then we've got this much more potential for a bigger area to sewer. And then that even, the first phase of this will design for all that, but then we're looking at it in a real global perspective that we could go even further at both sides and actually capture much more of that property up there as it sells, and then be able to tie that sewer into this, design this lift station here that we're gonna design in the park that'll have the capacity to handle much more than what's up there now. Even what we've got annexed in, we'll be able to even do more when they get that property sold and it becomes available for development. So it's kind of a long-range
Long
situation.
range. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
We gotta welcome Mr. Naramore,
Huh?
our new member.
Yeah. Mr. Naramore, he knows more than any of us does. Yeah, we are. I think we had one back in April, didn't we? He had to leave the room. All right, thank you. To hear we've made a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Aye.